So first of all, welcome everyone to now the 12th edition of SaaS Talks. When we started, we thought we'll not go beyond 10, but we we continue to enjoy it, and I hope you guys do as well. And that's why we have continued. Um, Today we have two guests on the topic of content marketing. And let me first introduce the topic. I'm going to introduce the guest. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the format for those of you who might be joining for the first time. But so the intent of the discussions that we have in SaaS Talks is that this is not meant to be a panel. This is indeed meant to be a discussion where multiple practitioners come, they talk, they share their experiences, they ask questions. So anybody can ask questions and anybody can answer questions as well. Of course, the online medium doesn't allow us to sit around a table. There are only so many who can be on the table, which are the people that you see on the screen. And the way this works is that every time we have a couple of anchor guests and we set the tone on the topic that we cover with them in the first 10 minutes. And thereafter, we actually look forward to everybody participating. You can raise your hands. We can actually bring you in onto the screen. You can ask questions on the Q&A panel. And of course, the two guests can answer, but if anybody else has knowledge about this topic and feels that they can contribute, you should also, by the way, feel free to raise your hand and join the screen as well at the same time. Let me introduce a topic, which is content marketing. At least I can confess that I did 10 years of go-to-market and I never understood marketing, forget content marketing. And at least in the days I used to sell, even digital marketing hardly existed. Even when at least I started my journey as a VC, I initially was very skeptical about content marketing as a true demand gen engine. Of course, I've learned a lot, and partly at the expense of Whatfix, and I'm going to introduce Vipul in a minute on the panel as well. But the truth is that as a product begins to achieve product market fit, you begin to think about your go-to-market engine, you begin to think about demand generation, and one of the first few things that you begin to tinker around with is content marketing. Yet there are lots of questions around it in terms of when to do it, how to do it, what makes it more effective, and that's what we plan to cover in the call today. So let me introduce the two guests today. Vipul, I got to know, I think in late 2014 or early 2015, at least that's what my recollection is. I had just, I was at Helion Venture Partners. We just decided to partner with Whatfix in its very early stage. And Vipul, to my recollection, was one of the first team members to come on board at Whatfix. And he handled not only content marketing, but anything that even remotely constituted marketing was always under Vipul's umbrella. And clearly they've taken great leaps with his leadership since then. I also want to introduce Asad. Asad, I think I've known now for 3 or 4 years. And he's a serial entrepreneur, did very well in his last company, which also was in the testing domain, and so is Lambda Test, as the name would suggest as well. Have had a chance to watch Asad and his colleagues closely. And I was just mentioning at the beginning of the call that they are a true rocket ship in the making, have a phenomenal battery of investors backing them as well. So thank you both for joining us in the call today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
So Vipul, I am going to take you back to 2015 for a minute here. I mean, so for a minute, I want you to forget where Whatfix is today and put yourself in the shoes of early stage entrepreneurs for a minute. And if you go back to the time you, in a way, bootstrapped the marketing function at Whatfix, at what point did you begin to think about content marketing? And what did it mean actually at that point to you?
Great question, Alok. I think, so I come from a background which was very much focused towards demand generation. Like every day, my morning starts by looking at the number of leads we generated because most of the time we were working for the US shift. So when I joined Whatfix in 2015 March, there was two sides to it. One was business and another was community, and I was bringing to basically grow the business side of it. And for me, business means obviously the revenue which is coming into the system, and that comes through leads. So from day one, it was content we need to write. We need to do search engine optimization setup for that, and we need to get our content marketing started. I would say we should not wait for a perfect plan to start the content marketing. It should start as soon as you have a product market fit, or even if you are trying for that, and you just understand that, okay, my personas might be looking for these kind of information. So just go for it, start from there, keep building on it, and keep learning from there.
Got it. I'm going to come back with a few more detailed questions on this, but I have the same question for Asad as well. I know that you have a very different target audience. In a sense, your audience is developers, engineers, etc. When did you begin to think about content marketing?
Because of my, this is my second startup actually that I'm doing, and being into testing space, knew our audience, that how they look for, what they look for, what kind of value they look for. So building a developer tool and selling it to the developers is definitely a challenge, and not many companies in India to look for. So we had a Postman, we had a competitor as well to look upon. And the moment we started thinking in this direction, I'll say that we started at the time of the moment we started doing MVP.
Interesting.
So we knew clearly that because of the lack of the funds, we don't have foot on the ground, and going after the enterprises is not a good idea. So all the dev tools, they go and start with a low-end market where actually you have a self-serve business, and people can come, try, and they can buy. So how we can pull this kind of audience, and there was no other way other than engaging them through content marketing.
And so Asad, let's continue with the same thought. When you started content marketing, what did it mean? Were you writing blogs somewhere? And as you begin to bootstrap this engine, I'm just curious, what are the first few questions that you need to answer and solve for?
So we learned during the process, we learned a lot. At that point when we started, we knew that, the design framework should be very clear, that marketing is not a isolated function. It should be tightly integrated with the sales, customer success, and the engineering as well, because you are in dev tool market, your developers are your audience. And building a trust with the developer was the biggest challenge actually. They can churn from your content and the product as soon as they look at you. So engaging them and looking at where our customers are hanging out, what kind of content they are actually navigating, and finding out the trend, learn from them, and then design your framework accordingly. Your design choices should be very clear when you start looking upon them. And it also starts with the target market that you're looking at. If you're an enterprise company, you want to start with enterprise, your design choice will be very different. And if you're looking at the SMBs market and the market on the product-led growth, then your design choice will be very different. Building a trust and the real content is the biggest challenge. This was the biggest challenge we had actually. Even building the product was not that big challenge, but building this trust and figuring out how we can bring them on the landing page was the biggest challenge.
All right. So given that you use the word trust on this one, I'm going to throw it over to Vipul for a minute. See, if today's audience, and when I'm using the word audience as your prospective buyers, they receive enough amount of junk every single day, right? They see ads on Twitter, they see ads on LinkedIn, they see enough in their emails coming. As you begin to think of a content program, how do you design it? How do you message it so that this is sounding more like content and actually not sounding like an advertisement? And How do you figure out sort of, and again, I'm going back to Asad's comment that it's very difficult to even write or think about it. So how do you solve for these problems in the very early stages, especially when you have very few resources also to begin with?
Right. I think it all depends upon that. What do you want to achieve from your content?
Right.
There are varieties of content. One is like you're writing thought leadership. The entire idea is educating people about the problem, the use case, or the solution you are offering, or something related to the market, right? So that's where you need to do a lot of research, I would say, and bring in that kind of information that if someone is reading that, it can resonate well and they are able to understand. So importance is to understand the objective of that piece of content. So for me, if we are writing anything, there need to be an objective. It can be an advertising as an objective, it can be a thought leadership, or it can be an objective of, let's say, if someone is searching anything on Google, can my content rank over there? Can I bring those people to them? Now think from that, okay, if I search for something, what would I be looking for in that piece of content? Can I provide that? So thinking about those things, building those objectives, and then thinking more from the user point of view, bringing them to the website, what kind of experience you want to give them is the most important thing. So that is the basic work which we need to do before we even start writing the piece of content.
Let me ask both of you, and feel free, either of you, if you want to answer. Sometimes influencing an individual who you want to target can take multiple touches. They might see one thought leadership article from you. They might see a ping in your email as well through some outbound effort. There are multiple things that may be weaved together before they truly begin to notice you and land, right? Now, I understand, Vipul, you made the comment initially that, look, all I think about every day is lead gen. But sometimes multiple activities may precede that lead gen. And I always worry about whether content marketing is the sole purpose lead gen, or is it actually also building a brand, right? Especially when you're putting out thought leadership. So how do you judge your content marketing programs? And I would love for both of you to answer that actually separately.
So for us, I mean, there are two different strategies. I mean, we are looking at the large audience. I mean, we are chasing a very large market, 23 million developers outside. And our focus is, I mean, there'll be channels which will be a direct acquisition and immediate, I mean, they'll land and they'll get acquired. But a good chunk of effort is going into creating a brand and engage through content into the community.
Understand.
And because that's a long tail process. I mean, you cannot blow the growth after a certain time if that is a direct acquisition strategy only. Because after some time, if those channels they started getting slow, then you don't have a long term. I mean, content marketing or the product led growth or organic growth is all about the very patience. It requires a lot of patience, plus it requires a lot of long tail approach where you want to go. So for us, it will be like 1 million visits a month or 2 million visits a month in next 24 months or next 36 months, that kind of targets we set. And we categorize that, okay, part of some visits will be direct acquisition, part of some visits will be community engagement where we'll create the brand. For example, right now, Lambda Test keyword itself is a very good brand that majority of the testing companies are running that. And that is giving us a good tailwind that sooner or later we'll get a very good benefit out of it. So two strategies, two different directions. Some strategy will give you immediate results and some will give you a long-term results actually. But I mean, not everyone in the company on the board are patient enough. So you got to play accordingly that you are not slowing down your revenue growth, right? So there are channels that you can keep the growth going on, but play for the long term. If you are into dev tools business or you're starting, it will start affecting you that your QR ratio and your spend versus acquisition, that difference will come down to almost equal, and then you go into the loop where you'll never be able to come out. So if you're not building a long-term channels where your acquisition cost will be not more than a couple of dollars or maybe $2-3, you cannot come out of that loop. So our strategy is very, very clear that, build a long-term channels and keep your continuous effort in order to reap the results out of it.
So I know Vipul is also going to answer, but Asad, I have a back-to-back question on this, which is that you put in a lot of things there, but now, therefore, would you measure them for activity, which is number of articles or blogs published? Would you measure them for engagement as to how many people read it or it reached out to or were engaged, even though it may not be lead generated? Or if you are actually trying to judge the overall impact on your brand, how do you judge? What are the metrics you will use to judge content marketing function?
So we track everything, right from the customer who is engaging on different communities with us, and they land on the landing page, and then the journey starts on the after landing. Actually, how we actually nurture the lead, right? Everything is tracked. So we look for engagement for the long-term channels. For example, community we are building right now, and we look for that how many external users are actually participating in the community, and how many internals are active there, and how many visits on the particular page is coming, and how that is being shared actually. So that is for the brand creation. But there are certain activities where we directly see that we got a signups, and how many of them got converted into paid actually. And both the channels are actually going hands in hands, making sure that we start getting good traction on the long-term channels as well. I'll tell you that we did very good in terms of SEO, almost 80% of our keywords are ranking in the top 5. But at the same time, we never looked into that what is the second best source that we can get the leads from, right? And B2B companies, they never look after that, can we get it through videos? So we started looking at YouTube can be a biggest source, and we can actually go after brutally and provide them a very thoughtful and deep tech videos to get the signups from there. And we started getting good traction now. So all these are very long-term approach that we are taking, but at the same time, our current revenue cycle is also, there are channels that are giving us a good revenue as well. So both the strategies are there.
Got it. People would love to know how do you measure success of content marketing?
Yeah, I'll just go a little back, Alok. I think what I believe is we need to understand the stage the company is and what is the sales or the marketing strategy for that company. Based upon that, you invest in your content. If your strategy is say you are driven by BDRs, where the approach is that the product has to be sold through the outbound effort.
Yeah.
And the best thing to do over there is to build the thought leadership content, because that content will be consumed in all your emails. Your BDRs will be looking for that content which can be shared with those people. And when those people land on your website, they need to read, and they need to that's where the trust factor, as Azad was saying, has to build up. On the other side, if your strategy is more towards inbound marketing, then this approach what you need to take towards your content will be different. From the day one, you will be looking to write content which can bring traffic to the website, and the conversion start from there. So it is very important to understand that. Now, taking these two things parallelly, that if it's an outbound focused sales and marketing function, then you're writing a lot of educational thought leadership content, which your prospects are consuming, learning about your industry or your category and getting educated on that. Now, the measurement of that has to be in a different way. How much time they are actually spending on that particular piece of content is very important. From that piece of content, where are they going further? Are they exploring your more gated content over there? Because lead gen might not be the right way at that point in time. They are not looking to get into the system. They still want to learn more. So how do you start? How much time they are spending? Are they checking your gated content? The third way to test is what we generally do is, are you able to bring them to Whatfix or any other website through remarketing ads? those can be on different platforms, right? On the other hand, if you are looking for the content which is more obviously more intent towards demand generation, then how many leads you are generating from there, what is the quality of those leads, are you able to bring them again? And I think gated content plays a very, very important role in the entire content marketing system, because that's where even people who are directly not your buyers will come to you, and then in the future you want to convert them.
Got it.
I agree with the Vipul. I'll add one more thing here. For us, I mean, the intent of the buyer, intent of the lead is very important. So we trace back, I mean, what the prospect was searching for and where it is coming from. For example, if it is coming from StackShare and comparing our competitor and us, so positioning for the BDR will be accordingly, that which competitor they looked at and where they're coming from. Even they are searching in the Google, what kind of string, the keywords they actually looked upon. And this kind of information goes directly to the sales team, that what kind of history of this prospect is. So the whole story, they build accordingly to pitch the prospect. I mean, that's how we trace down the data up to where the journey started.
Got it. I know I have gone way beyond my allocated time, and Arpit is probably not happy. So I'm going to stop asking questions at this point in time and want to open it up. Some of you I know have already started posting questions on the Q&A panel, which I'll read out. If some of you just want to ask the question by coming on screen, just raise your hand and we will actually bring you onto the panel as well. And if some of you, by the way, have expertise in this space, please don't be shy. Nobody is being judged. This is just a discussion. You are welcome to join Vipul and Asad on the screen as well. So, and please don't put questions in the chat group. I think some people are putting there. Please put it on the Q&A panel and not on the chat group, because there are too many screens to look at. So I'm actually going to read the question from Ugam first. It's an interesting question, which is that one of the big challenges in enterprise sales is the fact that the number of decision makers are very large. So you're not catering to one kind of stakeholder, but many different stakeholders, probably across multiple functions as well. How do you tailor content, therefore, to now multiple kinds of functional stakeholders? And please, either of you feel free to take, whoever would like to take these questions.
Okay, let me start with it. That's true for any enterprise sales, because there are a lot of people who are part of the sales cycle. What I have seen and what I have realized is there are 2-3 key players over there, or 2-3 key people who are responsible for gathering the main information or doing the basic work, or to start from there. So when we think of content, I think what we need to think about is, like, in this enterprise sales, who all will be the part of that evaluation. Like, say, it will go to a finance, it will go to legal, it will go to even the VP, but they are not the ones who are actually doing all that research. Research work is done by, like, say, a manager or a director over there, and they are coming from the same title, or they are coming from the same set of department over there, right? Let's say if you have a marketing product, if you have a marketing automation product, obviously your marketing automation person and the lead over there will be responsible, but not the other people. And they are the ones who are doing all the research. They will build the case and they will present it to everyone, and then it will be involved. So I feel there will be 2 to 3 key players you need to be focused on in the entire process.
Got it. In our case, it's a very distributed strategy. That the influencer is decision maker, then content should be accordingly. Influencer, if we are solving the problem, then that content is good for them, and then they start looking further, actually, if they find the value. And they also look for that how integrations are in place, actually.
Yeah.
And then they look at the pricing, and all these things we cover in the, not the pricing, but how the strategies are turning up for us. And then they also look for social proof. I mean, they go to different review sites, they go to comparison sites and making sure that we are in top 3. And once you're in top 3, they come on board to start a discussion. And our sales team accordingly, they position themselves that how the product will solve the value. And in our case, we also serve as self-serve options are there. So people, they after they subscribe, time to experience the product is very important. So in our case, if it's more than 20 minutes, then they give up.
Yeah.
So your value, if they don't find the value within 20 minutes, that is very important. So your messaging should be very clear. And the moment they hit the wall of the aha moment, they get the value out of it, then they pursue further actually. And then they give position accordingly. For enterprise, if the CIO is coming or the CTO is coming or VP engineering is coming, they're not going to buy another tool for a couple of more features or 2 more or 2 less features, right? So they focus on the ROI, they focus on the how you're going to change the whole game, heavy reliability and security and scalability. This will be a game-changing implementation for them or not. So your positioning for 2 different audience will be very different that you present.
I think that's an important point. I'm sure that all those who are listening as to what really matters to those stakeholders and tailoring your content to it. I am very curious. I'm going to pick one question a little bit out of turn in the sequence of questions which are come, because I think Vipul, you made a reference to it. When do we make our content gated? And what kind of content should be gated?
Yeah. So let's first understand what is gated content over there. There are multiple, there are varieties in that. One is if you look at, if you read prestige kind of publications like say Economist, if you're reading, or you're reading New York Times, or even in India, you read Economic Times also, right? They don't let you read the entire content. They say that if you are a subscriber or if you are a registered user, then only you can read. So that's one way of gated content. And that gated content is not possible for, like, say, for companies like us. But that's a gated content. The second gated content would be when you give them something to download. You are giving them something which they are looking for, like say a checklist or a cheat sheet, or a data sheet, right? What they are looking for. The third gated content is what you want them to download, right? So it is important to understand that who your persona is, what are they coming searching on your website, and accordingly you give them the gated content. And I would say that you start putting the gated content the moment you know that you are getting the traffic, because from there your engine of marketing starts. You get those leads, you get them into your marketing automation, you start the nurturing campaigns, you then keep building your database, and later down the line, you bring them for webinars, events, and you get engaged with them.
Interesting. Guru, I want to welcome you on the screen here.
Thanks, Alok.
Hey,
hi, this is TGC here.
I never, this is so confusing. Welcome. TGC, please, if you have a question, please go ahead. Or if
I think you had a point of view on a question, right? And I think
so I had a point of view on the question. So just to introduce myself, my name is TGC Prasad. Guru Prasad is showing wrong because I logged in from a different number. Okay. So right now we're doing a startup in a stealth mode. To put it very simply, in one-liner, like official email, we are developing official messaging, because 90% of people in this country are on WhatsApp groups, and all the message leaks us out when people leave the company, 20% attrition. So we are coming out with a simple messaging platform, which is for corporates, and where they can, when you join a company, you get an official email. When you leave the company, official email is disconnected and access to data is terminated. Exactly like that. When you join a company, you'll get an official messaging box. When you leave the company, the messaging box is deleted and access to data is terminated. So that's a startup we're working on. I hope it's as simple as that. So now coming to the content, been in the industry for some time, so I can give a few points on this, especially when people were saying this. Absolutely agree with him. One is when you have doing enterprise sales, and probably Alok will relate to this from SAP days, is you first take the slice of the dice as to what your product is and who is it focusing on. Is it the CIO? Is it the CFO? Is it the HR? Is it finance? Is it sales? Is it marketing, etc.? And exactly dovetail your content to the person who wants it, the need. You're solving a need out there. Once that person and his team or her team is hooked, then you work with that person, because you convert that access point into a lead, and with that lead you go to the influencer, and the influencer is the CIO, who pretty much influencer is this person and the CIO is the approver. And once the CIO feels that okay, this is good, we are taking in, then comes the next approver, which is a CFO. He says, hey, you don't have so much budget. And then finally the veto person is the CEO. So you have to start from the whole bottom, from the person who influences need to the approver to, and so on and so forth. So that's the whole cycle you have to go through enterprise sales. That's why most SaaS companies initially don't go and head on with enterprise, because 6 months, 7 months, you will deplete your cash flows. So it's best probably to start with B2B, where the CIO, CEO, CFO, everybody is the owner of the company. Go pitch to the owner of the company, fall at his feet, say, sir, please try it out, give it free, freebie, blah, 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 etc. And finally get the product going. That's on the content side. Second thing is on the gated content, and this will be my last point before I exit the screen. On the gated content, what I've noticed is that you need to have something called as a sneak peek. Initially, you show the full content. After that comes a sneak peek, and after that comes just the headlines with a few lines. And finally, you say, you know what, you want to know more, you're hooked on to this, subscribe for this. So that's essentially. And thanks, Alok. Appreciate.
No, fantastic. No, feel free to stay on TGC. Don't have to go back. I'm going to pick another question that's there on the Q&A panel. Sorry, Arpit, you're going. You go ahead.
Hello, go ahead. I'll pick the next one.
So this has been a question in my mind also, which is that if you are a very early stage company, how do you start the content team? Do you start with a specialist, or your quote unquote, Vipul, if I may refer to you in that sense, when you came on board, you are the marketing hire. I don't at least remember that you are necessarily for content or for something else. So how and when do you begin to build a content team itself? And what do you look for in that person, actually?
I would say we should get the first person in-house, because when you are building the initial content, it is very important that the person spends good amount of time with the product team, with the engineering team, with the sales team, with the CS team, if you have all those teams in place. Because that's where you start understanding about the buyer more, rather than a superficial thinking that, okay, this is my buyer. But if you are in the sales calls, if you are in the customer success calls, then you understand that, okay, this is what their real pain is and this is what they are talking about. So get someone in-house, and the first person we should be hiring is a product marketing function person rather than a content writer. Because the thinking of the product marketing person will be very different than a regular writer. So try to get a product marketing person first, and that person should be the one who is writing your initial set of content and building on top of it.
But Vipul, isn't it hard? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm sort of cross-questioning on this one. First of all, product marketeers are very hard to find in India to begin with, right? In fact, if you look at most SaaS companies, and I remember that two sessions back, we did a session on product marketing. I think just the notion of product marketing comes very late in people's mind. Even if you find a product marketing person, will they actually join you to do content marketing?
I completely agree with you, Alok, that finding those people are the toughest one. And that too, when you are a startup, no one is aware of, right? So one, that yes, they write content, and that's a general practice. If you see in lot of cases, in lot of companies in US, that's a very general practice. The second one, finding is definitely hard, and in India is even harder because we don't have those functions still, right? So if we are not able to find, obviously we need to start with someone who is good at writing, but someone who understands basics of marketing, because otherwise then you will be dependent a lot on another marketing person to distribute that content. Let's say that person is good in terms of social media to bit, or understand SEO a bit, or understand the sales process a bit. But that understanding is required. So don't just go for a writer, go for a combination as much as possible. Content plus marketer. Initial first one.
You touched upon something else, which actually I want to pick with Asad or TGC, whoever actually, and Vipul, you want to answer. And it's a very curious comment you made. I remember that when I had joined Siebel back in 2003, this was in sales. But I remember that they made me do a demo. They made me attend some, we invested customer success was not a word, but customer support calls, etc. And the idea was to get a sort of full understanding. And if you are hiring somebody in content marketing, and I'm just extrapolating your comment, Vipul, here, do you believe that it is worthwhile to have that person shadow sales call, shadow customer success calls? I don't know what else they should be shadowing, so that they have a pretty good idea of what the customer is looking for. And do people do it actually today or not?
So for our case, targeting the developer market, right from the beginning, we focused on that we will hire only engineers in the marketing function as well.
Interesting.
And I agree with all the assessment what Vipul was speaking about. I agree that you should not hire the content writer. I mean, you should start with the product marketer actually. But having engineers, because imagine how the GitLab started selling, right? I mean, it's not a content marketing person who can write the content about CI pipeline, right?
Yeah,
you need a good developer experience to write the CI pipeline. So for us, right from the beginning, our focus was you should be engineer, and if you have spent enough time in the product management, we'll onboard you, because our functions, product management, engineering, and customer success and sales works together actually, and it becomes a customer delight. And in that case, that person who's actually drafting the topic based on the research, based on that how our target users are hanging out, what they are talking about, and then we design so content which will go after 40 days is being planned right now. So you have a long cycle, that how it will be reviewed, what the topic will be, what research has been done, then they'll get the approval from the engineering team, what we'll talk about, and then it goes to the hires that we have actually. So initially we started doing by ourselves.
interesting.
But that's not a scalable funnel at all. And we believe that kind of volume we have, and the kind of target that we want to do is not, you cannot hire 100 writers on board, or you cannot hire 100 video makers who can go on the YouTube and every day we publish, we refresh the blog, we refresh our YouTube channel as well. So you have a very high volume funnel, and that you cannot do it in-house. So we started looking at, can we start engaging influencers outside? And we built a plan accordingly. So we have a 4-people team who hires and manages those people outside India right now.
Wow.
So we have almost 100 writers on board, and almost 50 influencers who are creating tutorials for us on generating videos, generating content. And we decided that we will also position them by the profile. So we are not going to claim that content at all. So it will be published on our channels, but it will be claimed by the same author who's writing it, right? And that's how we started evangelizing, because we need their help in the distribution as well. And if you're not positioning them, they will not entertain you in the distribution. And they have a high, they are influencer, they have a high target audience, actually, our community, like testers and developers community. So your content draft and publishing it, and then after distribution works in the same funnel. And so we solve this problem, having influencer outside, get them on board, though we are paying them high, but it is helping us. right now. I mean, and we are expanding it. I mean, can we have 200 people outside? Yes, we can have. Can we have 200 people in house? No way.
Got it. Actually, Anasad, thank you for that. You also answered one of the questions which was there in the Q&A panel on influencers, and which at least I was very keen to pick up. I have a follow-up question for you, and I'll build on one of the questions again in the panel. If I just look at the sheer volume and consistency of content that Lambda Test has on different channels of different types, right? There is newsletters, and there is blogs, and then there is a forum, and everything is very active. Right? So what one clearly that we outsource a little bit of it in the sense that we find influencer. What are other things that help maintain both the quality and the quantity on a consistent basis? And are there these tools like Copy.ai and I think Peppertype and one or the other ones that have been named? Have you found any of those to be useful to help increase the throughput? And like any experiments that we have run, what kind of experience you might have had? And again, over and above the tools, anything else also that helps?
We use tools, and I heard from the team that they use Copy.ai. Paper content we didn't try, but Copy.ai we tried, but there was not a good success. But it is working for many companies. I heard it's a great product. But for us, who decides that how the content design will be is in-house team right now, and the product managers, they decide. And that's not a marketing job, because our content is very deep tech, and that goes through a lot of research, and then we make sure that we have a quarterly plan and quarterly funnel, and that is being completely driven by product managers. That's their KRAs as well, and their OKRs as well. And once they push it to the marketing team to talk to the influencers and get it done, so the review process also happens, and it is getting reviewed by the internal team on the product side and engineering side, and it's a part of the KRA, because we want to maintain the quality. And this kind of inspiration is coming from looking at the GitHub, and how the enterprise side in the dev tools, they starting to do it on the UiPath side, Atlassian side, and you go to a very different direction in the Snowflake, Datadog, how they have done. So collective inspiration is coming, and then that's how we are navigating right now.
Arpit, I just want to add one point here.
Yeah.
From a content marketing or product marketing side, look at it from 3 points. One is product driven content. That means your product automatically drives the content, like PLG, right? WhatsApp talks to you. Nobody needs to write a content about WhatsApp. You just download it, it talks to you, right? A product driven content. Second is the company driven content. That means we engage within the company a content writer, a product marketing specialist, so on and so forth. You have a limited budget, you can kind of control it, manage it, etc. That is the second way of looking at it. And third way, obviously, is the influencer content, influencer marketing, and so on and so forth, right? Now, you can use tools, you can go blitzkrieg, you can do a lot of content, you can publish a lot of content, but my personal observation has been that the more content you publish, the less people read. Second one is that the quality of content, especially during Diwali and all, happy Diwali, different content, Instagrams, etc. People don't get it. They don't register it. The originality of the content and minimalistic content, which goes with the product, seems to be working the best. The latest example which I can quote is Upstocks. So they send once a week or something, a very simple 5-minute or 4-minute video explaining a certain context or a concept. Example, what is, if you read their email, at the bottom, they'll give you one snippet. What is closing bell? What is opening bell? What is NCD? What is follow on? It's very simple. For those people who are naive to basic investing, finance or something, click on that, 2 minutes, you get to know the funda and you know what to do about it. Powerful, very powerful. So I think this is what seems to be working in the piles and zillions of content that is getting launched every day. It's such a big money spinner for content makers that all of us tend to rely on them. Last point, if you are a startup, if you are a SaaS company, I think the first 1 year to 1.5 till you really get your big money, or where you can go on to sales and marketing, your product, your founders and your senior team are the content guys. They have to write content, they have to talk about it, they have to go out, because you don't have money and you have to get the biggest bang for what you are putting in out there, and this is the only way. But if you can dovetail content right into your product in such a beautiful way, like a Figma, Notion, a lot of, then you actually don't need to splurge too much on content. It is how you productize your entire content into the product itself, which will make a significant difference.
Got it.
I agree, and I'll add a couple of more points here. You cannot. It's a never-ending process. You cannot generate too much content by yourself. So you always have different hooks that you can explore, right? For example, newsletter. We always publish like a weekly, bi-weekly newsletters, and we have around 70,000 subscribers right now, and it's growing very fast. We looked at the hustle, that how they've grown up actually, and what they have done. And a similar kind of approach we followed can be built across the testing community, right? So you cannot write the 10 articles in a week to publish the newsletter, and nobody will read it. I agree. So how will you drive the newsletter? Then how the hustle has aggregated the top content from the community and presented into the audience actually. So that way that we started newsletter and it started working beautifully. That's not our content, but we are aggregating in a manner that we know what is good content for you, what is not good.
Yeah, there's a value to the curation.
So you can always create hooks around it, and I also agree the user generated content is very powerful, but not every company has a user generated content, and the problem is that how will you find that hook? So in our case, couple of incident I'll explain here. You have a static pages and you have live pages on the website, right? But companies, they have 5,000 pages, but it's not visible on the website. And how these 5,000 pages are bringing you leads, right? So look at the Zapier example. They created 25,000 pages because their case was very unique. They have integration landscape, right?
Yeah.
So they write their landing page for every integration they launch. And that's how their funnel got strong. And if you talk about how it can be fit with us, we have hundreds of integrations. And right now 2,000 pages are running in the Google, and we get a lot of leads from them. And similar kind of approach we followed in different directions. You have a non-programmatic SEOs which you drive by your company, and then you can have a programmatic approach, which company like Snyk. I mean, they give you, if you go to their page, they allow you to find the NPM pages. There are millions of NPM pages. It's a programmatically driven, right? And that is giving them long tail win. So you got to design in a manner that will work for you. I mean, in different aspects, right?
Got it. And one question which my gut is, Vipul, maybe you would want to take a crack at this one. This is, if you're using different channels for go-to-market where you have channel partners, does your content address the channel partner or the final user? And I'm specifically calling out, as I think Krishna mentioned, that they find getting this balance really hard.
Yeah, Arpit, can you explain the question again?
It's okay. And
okay, let me take a crack at this. People, if you look at it, in many cases, your sales actually happens through channel partners, right? So, and especially if you have a long tail channel partners, then do you build content for channel partners to influence channel partners rather, or do you do it to influence the end user or end user itself? And how do you strike the balance in terms of the two target segments?
Okay, so I think if you want to influence channel partners, that's a completely different funnel versus if you are influencing channel partners' customers, or right. So I think the funnel or the approach will be different. The way, if you want to influence channel partners, obviously you will be writing content related to the business and what they are into. Like there are a lot of SIs out there who are implementing big softwares. So are you writing in terms of that? But I think when it comes to their customer, it has to be driven through them. Maybe you provide the content. So that's what we do. We provide them the content, the emailers, which goes out in their organizations, which they send out. So each piece of content comes from us, being it a thought leadership content, being it the regular email newsletters, so that we provide them, because that has the latest updated information and we maintain it.
Okay. But you are then not optimizing for content to influence the channel partners themselves.
No, so
the content is still being optimized for the end user, or do we optimize for both?
We don't have content which is targeted towards channel partners. Let's say to bring in channel partners, to sign up channel partners. So that I would feel that can be common also. Like say someone who is in that space. So channel partner will also be looking out for similar kind of content what your buyers are looking at, your direct buyers. But when we look at how do a channel partner can evangelize within their customer base, that we give them the content which they then utilize.
I'm tempted to chime in with one question here. I think TGC, you referred to it, and before that, I think Asad also referred to it, which is use of video in your content marketing. I think even until probably 5-6 years back, at least in enterprise content marketing, videos are not being used as much, or maybe they were. But I'm actually trying to understand how the audience preferences are changing in terms of consumption of the content that you are creating. Is it still mostly long form sort of article, or are you seeing a massive shift towards video, even in the B2B scenario?
Huge shift, no? Because if you look at LinkedIn per se, more than 50% are videos, 30-40% are pictures, 20% are posts, blogs, etc. The balance 5% is the text, because nobody's reading the text. Look at the whole way it has changed. But the video cannot be 5 minutes and 10 minutes. It's got to be less than 30 seconds.
Vipul, Asad, any thoughts on this? Yeah.
It depends. I mean, 30-second versus few minutes. If someone is, I mean, your target audience is a developer, is reading the tutorial actually. So tutorial cannot be a 30 seconds, but it can be a little bit longer. Video and text, both audience are there. It's not certain people like readings and few people don't. Prefer the videos. So both the hybrid strategy is required, in my opinion. It's not that one channel is actually doing a very, very good for us, like video is countering the text or text is countering the video. In our case, no, we have a good fine balance actually. So we are getting kind of like, text is still leading right now, but video is picking up. Maybe after 12 months, we get the data that video has skyrocketed and overbeaten the content, but we'll see. Yeah, text content.
I think both video and text are completely different, and it changes from industry to industry. There are multiple things into that. If you're writing a thought leadership content, converting them into a video will become a documentary. And people might not like to sit in front of a video for 30 minutes because obviously it goes on its own pace, but your reading is your pace. So it depends a lot that where do you want to use it and how you want to use it. Like say LinkedIn as what I've seen is in LinkedIn, you have those smaller videos built in, but those videos should lead you to the bigger piece of content. The objective of the video is to stop you over there to see that video, but then it should bring you back to your blog or your piece of content where people are actually reading in depth. So there are a lot of companies do it beautifully. Economists do that regularly. They create those videos very high oriented and then bring them back to the blog, to the content. And I think it's very different. Like if someone really want to see video, they can go on YouTube and search for it. Or a lot of time, if the videos are relevant, Google in itself starts showing them on the search, but they don't do that for everything, if you see. And the consumption of video, I would say it's catching up, but it depends upon how you want to use that. It cannot fit in everywhere. And text-based content has its own charm, I would say, when people want to read it and it can help you overall.
Go ahead, Aprit.
No, I think Piyush mentioned in the Q&A panel that he had some pointers, and Piyush is from Hippo Video, on video itself. And since we were discussing video, so over to you, Piyush.
Yes, so the point of video came up that quite excited me in the last 2 years. I've been working on a video platform, and we have been seeing all kinds of videos. On what Vipul said as well, as in text has its charm, but then as Asad said, I think you can't blast one type of video to all kinds of user. Whenever you are doing blogs, or whenever you are doing website, or whenever you are doing social, it has to be different videos. So what we do is split video into 3 or 4 types. One is top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, or bottom of the funnel. Top of the funnel, what we call video, is just a showroom piece. In India, we have a showroom piece. So whenever you go to any platform, or any, let's say I go on Swiggy, Zomato, the burger that it looks is so awesome that I want to order it. But when I order it, it is very messy. So that is my showroom piece video, which is just a kind of proof of concept video, and it is very glossy. It doesn't look like a how-to demo. But then bottom of the funnel video is, someone mentioned, it has to be a product demo. It can't be less than 30 seconds. So you want to quickly explain how do you do that feature along. So then you go towards bottom of the funnel. And usually in content marketing and blogs, what I would say is social media use more of top of the funnel videos. On blogs, at some pieces you use middle and bottom of the funnel videos. So that there goes my knowledge around videos.
Thanks, Piyush. I am keen to chime in with one last question, because I realize that we have discussed content creation, who to target. The one thing we did not touch upon in the entire discussion today is, you have built a great piece of content. How do you distribute it? How do you measure? How do you distribute the damn thing, right? And where do you distribute? And I'm curious that I'm sure you guys have both, Asad and Vipul, you have armies of people today to figure out how to do this distribution today. But I want to take you back to your early days. And if you are sitting in the shoes of early stage entrepreneurs, how do you get your content to be seen by the right people in the first place?
You got to identify where your customers are hanging out, and identify those places and start building engagement over there. And it's a long process that, you start getting good traction in the distribution. And you will see in certain places, you'll see a lot of spike. For example, if you publish on the HackerRank, one day you'll get 1,000 signups, but that's not sustainable spike actually. So how you build a right distribution for the long term in sustainable manner is more about that you identify where are the customers are hanging out in different communities, what kind of content, where are these places, and how will you start. You don't sell. First few months, don't even try to sell. Just engage the community. How much your content itself is a product actually. If people are buying it, they'll start looking after. If they're not buying your content, then they'll never look into the product. So that's a product piece, and that's how the product manager inside the Lambda test, they drive it, right? So if you find those places, and you will also see that couple of hacks that you can try on the Product Hunt, HackerRank, all these places. You put your product inside in front of the audience, and then they start signing up. But those spikes are momentarily. And once you start looking into that, how Twitter has started showing you the community inside the front-end developers, back-end developers, JavaScript developers have a different community. So if you start engaging those communities and start throwing your content slowly, they'll engage. And once they engage, you always have opportunity to bring them on the product landing page. And that's one journey. And after product landing page, there's another journey, that how the messaging is. Right. And how you are, what is time to experience? Where is aha moment? And then where is the human touch points, right? How the customer success and the sales will give the touch points, and how the lead is converted. So all these works accordingly. Yeah.
Vipul, any closing thoughts on the same topic of distribution? I know we're above the time, but
Yeah, I think Asad covered really well. I just want to add quickly. One is people are searching a lot on search engine. I'm a big fan of that. Please write your content which can rank over there. The second one is write content, thoughtful, meaningful content, and utilize it through your cold emails. Build a cold email database, right? Start from there. It's a long process, but that's where you can go and show the product, show the content right to your target audience immediately. So that can be another one. Build the database and do your email nurturing campaigns on those, and show and bring that content out.
great. I still have a list of my own questions, and I can see long list of questions on the Q&A panel as well. I know that we'll not get to it, but thank you everyone for joining today. We'll be back hopefully in another couple of weeks, and I'll keep saying it every time. Now that we have done, 12 of these, sometimes we don't want to repeat topics. So if you have topics, please do write to us. Some of these topics are actually now being picked up because you have sent mails to us. So please do keep writing on that front. Asad, Vipul, TGC, and Piyush, thank you so much for being on the screen today.
Thank you, Alok. Not expected to be on the screen.
Really appreciate you being candid with your thoughts and comments and being there today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you all. Thank you.